Hi, my name is Donna Yates, and this is a workshop entitled Teaching Boys to Become Men Without Tripping Over Hegemonic Masculinity. Studies in the early 1980s and 90s were beginning to talk more and more about masculinity. The studies were mostly addressing the reasons why boys were not doing well in school. Now, some reasons, such as teacher expectation, favoring girls, were shown to hinder boys' success in school. But something else showed up that had everybody kind of scratching their head. And that's because masculinity, in and of itself, had become a problem. Boys who did well in English and in reading and English composition and got good grades were laughed at. They were laughed at and they were made fun of because it was not masculine to do well in school. And no boy wanted to be laughed at and made fun of. And so even children who were very intelligent made sure they did not do well in school. So during the 90s, several contradicting theories emerged to explain what was going on. Now, while Anderson and Pollock were looking at this damage caused by what they thought was masculinity and how masculinity was viewed by these young boys, Summers was blaming feminist perspectives for the same damage. But Pollock and Anderson both concluded that the definition of what is acceptable masculinity needs to change for boys to become mentally and emotionally healthy adults. Pollock feared boys needed an entirely new definition of masculinity, and that most boys today are facing serious emotional difficulties due to the strict rules about hegemonic masculinity. Like Pollock, White Watson also sees hegemonic masculinity as being responsible for high rates of suicide and violence committed by boys and young men. She refers to instances of school shootings, which have predominantly been committed by boys, as examples of the profound effects of hegemonic masculinity on boys' mental health. While suicide rates among 15 to 19-year-olds have indeed been increasing during the last several years, there has been no evidence that this rate increase is connected to hegemonic masculinity. In fact, suicide ideations among female teens has risen higher than those among male teens. So while Pollock and White were concentrating on possible reasons for masculinity pressures being responsible for suicide and violence among teen males, Anderson, meanwhile, began to move toward the notion that as boys become less homophobic, they will be more accepting to the softening and rigid lines of acceptable masculinity behavior. Anderson does not see boys as being in the deep crises that Pollock describes. By 2016, Anderson realized that more and more youth are accepting bisexuality as acceptable. According to Anderson, recognition of sexuality as a continuum is now being adopted by young people, with increasing numbers in recognizing that they are not exclusively straight nor exclusively gay. And according to Gallup, the percentage of millennials who identify as LGBTQ+ expanded from 7.3% in 2016 to 8.1% in 2017. While LGBTQ+ students do continue to experience bullying in junior and senior high schools, then particularly in urban schools, that number is dropping than it was more than 10 years ago. So huge steps toward erasing both homophobia and hegemonic masculinities are taking place by millennials. Political perspectives and policies such as LGBTQ plus inclusivity and language in the workplace, schools, colleges, and universities are making inroads into changes, not only for the LGBTQ community, but for other minority populations as well. These policies are quickly changing the current definitions of masculinity, at least by millennials. So, with these changes beginning to be better understood and accepted by society, the question becomes, how do we raise our youngsters today to be healthy adults tomorrow without tripping over hegemonic masculinities? So, for the next part of this workshop, I would like to share my screen with you and talk about teaching boys to become men without tripping over hegemonic masculinity. Recognizing the stereotypes. Videos and TV shows that emphasize changing masculinities can be very helpful when showing youth that there are many alternatives to stereotype masculinity. This can include shows such as The Big Bang Theory, Glee, Scrubs, RuPaul's Drag Race, and This Is Us. Now, by boysdon'tcry.ca, there are 10 tips for promoting healthier masculinities among boys and young men. Model a full range of healthy emotions. For boys, it's especially important to see adults express a multitude of feelings, including sadness, loss, frustration, delight, and happiness. Express and identify our own feelings. Children can understand more easily when adults give a reason for emotional reactions, such as, I'm crying because I'm sad and upset. I feel frustrated because I can't find my book, or this storm scares me. Discuss gender stereotypes and their impacts. Explain to boys that not sharing our feelings may make us feel depressed, and not talking about why we're angry or upset may lead us to use violence. Differentiate between physical strength and strength of character. Boys need to hear that expressing feelings and emotions is very healthy, and that being strong is as much about being gentle, respectful, and kind as it is about muscles. Encourage and celebrate self-expression. Let boys know that it's okay to step outside the man box and take on behaviors and choices that are associated with any gender. Celebrate healthy masculinities. A healthy masculinity is one that's devoid of stereotypes, promotes kindness, empathy, and peaceful interactions, and empowers boys to be confident in their true selves. Consider positive discipline over punitive discipline. Controlling a child's behavior with corporal or punitive discipline practices leads to poor modeling and undeveloped skills in getting along with others. Consider more positive alternatives to gain a child's cooperation, such as logical consequences, timeouts, acknowledging desirable behaviors, and reinforcing the forgiveness of wrongs. Model and teach boys about consent. It's never too early to talk about consent in broader terms using everyday examples. Asking permission to borrow a toy, ask first before giving someone a hug. In later years, Talk about it as a foundation for healthy and respectful relationships. Help boys understand gender and sexual diversity. Teach boys that some boys grow up to be attracted to other boys, and some girls are attracted to girls, and some young people don't want to be identified as either a boy or a girl. And educate boys about gender equality. Help them learn the definition and value of allyship and the importance of speaking out against gender-based violence, racism, homophobia, transphobia, and any other type of violence that they may witness. So, what are some of the other methods we can utilize to help boys grow into healthy adults? The Mask You Live In is a documentary. This is a 1 hour and 31-minute documentary that addresses the consequences of hegemonic masculinity, from the emotional damage of not feeling loved and accepted as a child to prison lifers who are just now learning to express feelings and sorrows. It's well worth the watch, and the study guide for it is a wonderful tool for discussion after after viewing the film. All the information on accessing um, the Mask You Live In and any of the other forums that I will be showing about ways of helping young men grow into healthy adults is also shared on the handouts for this program. A look at bullying. The boy game is a look at bullying through the lens of masculine gender norms. The Boy Game is a 14-minute film about bullying and masculinity. It's well done, and the study guide that accompanies it is a great tool for discussing the movie after showing it to adolescents at school or just about anywhere adolescents gather under adult supervision. It's a film and study guide that should be a part of every middle school's curriculum. A second study guide by Kokozo and Gross is also a very good research for starting a dialogue about the film. Coaching Boys into Men. This is a program that instructs athletic coaches on using their positions as leaders to instruct students about nonviolence and respect. As influencers and role modelers, coaches are uniquely positioned to teach and model healthy behavior. The principles of teamwork and fair play make sports an ideal platform to teach healthy relationship skills. As leaders themselves, athletes are given the tools and the vocabulary they need to stand up for respect and to influence their school's culture. Peer coaching. Studies have shown that peer coaching and intervention helps students at risk for depression and suicide ideation, often due to bullying and other pressures, far more than adult interventions. Peers are also more likely to witness bullying than adults, and several programs now train juniors and seniors in both high schools and colleges to act as advocates for younger students. In conclusion, while facing the pressures to be hypermasculine can be daunting for youth and adolescents, the truth is we have many aids available to help them overcome these pressures. Films, TV shows, workshops, trainings, and peer support are all available to make a big difference in the lives of vulnerable youngsters. If we, as adults who care about our children's futures, make the effort to help them overcome dangerous stereotypes, we can help make the changes that can change the world. This is Donna Yates, and thank you for joining my program.